Who could say no to this soft little bow kitten? This chenille yarn feels just like a tiny marshmallow, and it looks so cute hanging on a bag. If you don't want to keep rewinding later, I also prepared a full PDF pattern in my Etsy shop. For this tutorial, I'm using DMC Soft Chenille Fine Yarn with a 3.0mm hook. Let's start crocheting the main body, beginning with the head. For round 1 of the head, start by chaining 7. Make a slip knot in whatever way feels comfortable for you. This slip knot does not count as a stitch. Now, crochet 7 chains. Starting in the second chain from the hook, work 5 single crochets across. Each little V shape is 1 stitch. Here we'll only insert into the left loop of the stitch. That completes my first single crochet. You can place a stitch marker in the first stitch here. Take your time and continue working the remaining single crochets the same way. In the very last chain, work 3 single crochets into the same stitch. This step is really important because it helps the piece curve smoothly around the end instead of bunching up. After turning the piece, we'll work into the remaining loops on the other side of the chain. Along this side, crochet 4 single crochets. Now we're at the last stitch. Work 2 single crochets into this stitch. Once that's done, we can join with a slip stitch. Remember to pull the slip stitch a little tight. Tidy up the yarn tail a bit, and round 1 is now complete. Now we're moving into round 2. Work 6 single crochets first, then make 1 single crochet increase in the next stitch. So that's 1 set, 6 single crochets, and 1 increase. Well, repeat this set 2 times. Relax, and take your time. By the end of this round, you should have 16 stitches. Once you finish, join with a slip stitch. Round 2 is complete. Now, we're moving into round 3. Start with a single crochet increase, which means working 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Begin with a turning chain. At the start of every round, the turning chain does not count as a stitch. Then continue slowly along the stitches. Here we'll work 5 single crochets. Now we've reached one end of the oval. Here we'll make 3 single crochet increases in a row, which means working 2 single crochets into each of the next 3 stitches. This helps the piece curve smoothly around the end, so make sure not to miss any stitches. Then continue by working 5 more single crochets. For the last 2 stitches, make 1 single crochet increase in each stitch. Once you finish, join with a slip stitch. Round 3 is complete, and you should now have 22 stitches. Now we're moving into round 4. In this round, we'll increase from 22 stitches to 34 stitches. Start with a turning chain, then make 2 single crochet increases right away. Don't forget to place a stitch marker in the first increase stitch. This will mark the beginning of the round. Then continue along the stitches without increasing or decreasing. Work 5 single crochets here. Keep your hands relaxed and follow a steady rhythm. Now we've reached the curved end. Here we'll make 6 single crochet increases in a row, which means working 2 single crochets into each of the next 6 stitches. This helps the piece curve smoothly around the wider end, so make sure not to miss any stitches. Then work 5 more single crochets. You'll start to notice the oval shape getting longer now. In the remaining stitches, make 4 single crochet increases in a row. Remove the stitch marker and join to the first stitch with a slip stitch. Let's count together. This round should end with 34 stitches. The base is getting bigger and bigger now. Next are rounds 5 through 7. These 3 rounds are nice and easy. No increases and no decreases. Just work 34 single crochets in each round. At the beginning of every round, make a turning chain. It doesn't count as a stitch. And don't forget to place a stitch marker in the first stitch of each round so it's easier to keep track of your stitch count. Just follow the rhythm and crochet slowly. This part feels really relaxing. At the end of each round, always join to the first stitch with a slip stitch to keep the piece straight and even. As long as you maintain 34 stitches in every round, the oval shape will grow upward neatly, with clean edges. I'll skip ahead through the repeated parts here, so just take your time and keep going at your own pace. Starting with round 8, we're going to widen the piece a little, increasing the stitch count from 34 to 38 stitches. Begin with a turning chain. Start the round with 1 single crochet increase, which means working 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Don't forget to place a stitch marker in the first stitch. This marks the beginning of the round. Then continue without increasing or decreasing, working 12 single crochets in a row. This section is a little longer, so just count slowly and keep a steady pace. Now we've reached the first curved end. Make 1 single crochet increase here. Right after that, continue with 2 single crochets. Then make another single crochet increase here. This helps shape the top curve of the oval, so it looks softer and more rounded instead of pointy. After that, work 14 single crochets in a row. As we come back around to the starting side, make 1 single crochet increase first, then crochet 2 single crochets. You'll notice that this brings us neatly back beside the stitch marker, closing the round perfectly. Remove the stitch marker, and join to the first stitch with a slip stitch. Let's check the stitch count together. This round should end with 38 stitches. You can already see the piece getting a little wider now. That's the magic of increases. For rounds 9 through 11, begin with a turning chain and place a stitch marker in the first stitch. Then simply repeat 38 single crochets all the way around for each round. I'll skip through the repeated steps here, so just take your time and crochet at your own pace. Remember to join each round with a slip stitch. And here, we've now finished round 11. After finishing round 11, our piece is now tall enough. Starting with round 12, we'll decrease the stitch count from 38 stitches down to 32. Begin with a turning chain, then work 12 single crochets without increasing or decreasing. This section is nice and straight, so just keep a steady rhythm and crochet calmly. Now comes the important part. Here we'll make 3 decreases in a row, which means combining 2 stitches into 1 single crochet. Here's a little tip. When making decreases, try working only through the front loops. This gives the closing edge a much cleaner and smoother look. Take your time and don't rush. I'll go a little slower here so you can see it more clearly. And that completes 1 decrease. Repeat the decrease 3 times. After finishing the decreases, continue right away with 14 single crochets. Then make 3 more decreases in a row. You'll notice the piece starting to pull inward a little here, and the straight edges are beginning to form a softer curve. Join to the first stitch with a slip stitch. Round 12 is now complete. The opening has become noticeably smaller, and we're back down to 32 stitches. For round 13, we'll continue decreasing, bringing the stitch count down from 32 to 24 stitches. Begin with a turning chain. Right away, make 1 single crochet decrease. Don't forget to place a stitch marker in the stitch after the decrease. Then work 8 single crochets without increasing or decreasing. This section is shorter than the previous round, and you'll start to notice the piece narrowing as you crochet. Now make 4 single crochet decreases in a row. This is the heaviest decrease section in the round, so keep your hands steady and take your time. Then continue with 8 single crochets. At this point, you'll notice the ends of the oval looking much softer and rounder instead of pointed. Finish the round with 3 single crochet decreases in a row. This closes up the remaining space nicely and completes the shape of the round. Remove the stitch marker and join to the first stitch with a slip stitch. Let's count together. You should now have exactly 24 stitches. After finishing round 13, we're left with just 24 stitches. And the opening in the center has become much smaller now. This round is very simple. All we need to do is make 12 decreases in a row. Whenever you see two little V-shaped stitches, combine them into one single crochet. By the time you work all the way around, you'll have completed 12 decreases. Once you finish, join with a slip stitch, and leave a long yarn tail for sewing later. Now add some stuffing. Just fill it evenly until it feels soft and nicely rounded. Let's start with a magic ring. Wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop. Then insert your hook into the center of the ring. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Now chain 1 to secure it. This starting chain does not count as a stitch. Next, work 6 single crochets directly into the ring. As you crochet, hold the ring gently with your fingers so it stays in place. Once all 6 stitches are finished, pull the yarn tail tightly to close the center hole. That completes this round with a total of 6 stitches. Join to the first stitch with a slip stitch, and round 1 is now finished. You can place the yarn tail over the top of your hook while crocheting to hide the tail as you go. For round 2, there are still no increases or decreases, just work 6 single crochets around. Start with a turning chain. This chain does not count as a stitch. Simply repeat 6 single crochets. You can crochet over the yarn tail to hide it as you go. Once you finish crocheting, join with a slip stitch. Chain 1 here, then cut the yarn. You can trim the yarn tail as well, then turn the piece so the right side is facing out. We'll make 2 arms the same way. Next, we'll slowly crochet the legs and body of the doll together. We'll begin with the 2 little legs first. For the legs, we'll also start with a magic ring and work 6 single crochets into it. Start with a turning chain. Remember, the turning chain does not count as a stitch. Place a stitch marker in the first stitch to mark the beginning of the round. Once the 6 single crochets are finished, gently pull the ring closed. Then remove the stitch marker and join to the first stitch with a slip stitch. And that completes round 1 of the leg. Now for round 2, work 2 single crochets, then 1 single crochet increase, followed by 3 single crochets. You should have 7 stitches in total for this round. Start with a turning chain, and once again place a stitch marker in the first stitch. Work 2 single crochets. Then make 1 single crochet increase. Continue with 3 more single crochets. Once you finish, remove the stitch marker and join to the first stitch with a slip stitch. After finishing both rounds, 1 little leg is complete. Make the second leg the exact same way. After cutting the yarn on the first leg, turn the piece so the right side is facing out. Keep the yarn attached to the second leg, because next we'll join the 2 legs together. Chain 2 first. With the right side of the pieces facing you, insert your hook into the slip stitch of the first leg. Hold the yarn tail along the inside of the piece to hide it, then make a slip stitch to join. And now the 2 little legs are nicely connected together. Now we're working round 3. After joining the round, just make 18 single crochets around, with no increases or decreases. Start with a turning chain like usual, then make the first single crochet in the same stitch. Place your stitch marker again here. It just makes the stitches easier to track. Keep crocheting around here. We'll make 7 single crochets first. When you get to the 7th stitch, the join starts feeling a little far away. So we're just going to use a decrease here to help smooth out the spacing a little. Just like this, start an unfinished single crochet in 1 stitch, then do the same thing in the next stitch. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and that brings the stitches together much more smoothly. Once you reach the center between the legs, work into the remaining loops and make 2 single crochets. Now we're at the other leg. The next steps repeat the same way, so just take your time here. Again, at the last stitch, use a decrease here to help shorten the spacing. Once you reach the join again, work into the remaining loops and make 2 single crochets. That finishes round 3, then slip stitch into the first stitch to join. Now we'll start round 4. Begin with a turning chain, make 3 single crochets first. You can place your stitch marker in the first stitch here. After the 3 single crochets, make 1 increase. Just work 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Then continue with 8 single crochets. After that, make another increase here. We increase at the corners, so the shape curves more smoothly. Then continue with 5 single crochets. Remove the stitch marker, then slip stitch into the first stitch. And that finishes round 4. You should have 20 stitches total. Now we're at round 5. Start with a turning chain, then make 3 single crochets. Place your stitch marker in the first stitch here. It just helps keep track of the stitches. Finish the 3 single crochets. Then work 2 increases here. After that, just continue with 8 single crochets. Then work another 2 increases, the same way. Finish the round with 5 single crochets. And that finishes round 5. You should have 24 stitches total. Starting in round 6, we'll crochet the arms onto the body as we go. Start with 1 single crochet here. You can place your stitch marker in the first stitch. Then work 1 decrease. Now let's start attaching the arm. Insert your hook through the slip stitch area here. Once your hook goes through, just make 2 single crochets here to join the arm onto the body. This part can feel a little tight, so just take your time here. Then go into the second stitch on the arm. And now the arm is connected. Then we'll just keep crocheting around here. Start with 1 decrease. Then make 1 single crochet. Then work another decrease. Continue with 1 single crochet. Just keep repeating the same pattern here. 1 decrease. Then 1 single crochet. Now let's attach the second arm the same way. Again, insert your hook through the slip stitch area to connect it. Make 2 single crochets here. To attach the arm, just make sure your hook goes through both the arm and the body. Then go through the front loops of 2 stitches and work 1 decrease. Then just make 2 single crochets here. Then work 1 decrease. Make 1 single crochet in the last stitch, then slip stitch into the first stitch. To join the round, you should still have 24 stitches total. Now we're at round 7. Start with a turning chain like usual. Make 1 single crochet in the first stitch. You can place your stitch marker here. It just helps keep track of the stitches. Next, we'll work 10 decreases. Here there's only 1 stitch left on the body, so for the second stitch, pick up the front loop from the arm. And that finishes one decrease, then just keep crocheting around. Now we're at the second decrease. Here there's only one stitch left on the arm, so pick up one stitch from the body. And now we've finished 3 decreases total. Keep following the same pattern here. We'll make 10 decreases total, and whenever you reach the join between the arm and body, just use the same method we did earlier. After the 10th decrease, you'll still have 1 stitch left. Make 1 single crochet, then slip stitch to join. You should have 12 stitches total. Tighten the slip stitch, chain 1, leave a small yarn tail, then cut the yarn. And now the legs and body are finished. Add some stuffing here and make it nice and full. You can also add stuffing into the small gaps around the arms and legs. Now we'll start attaching the head to the body. Find the center point first, then starting from the slip stitch, count to the 3rd stitch here. Then just sew everything together stitch by stitch. Once everything is sewn together, weave in the yarn tail and trim away the extra yarn. And now the main body is finished. Let's start with the little cat ears here. We'll make to the same way. Start with 6 chains, and the slip knot doesn't count. Yarn over and pull through to make each chain. Just keep going until you have 6 chains. Now we'll work back into the chain here. Go into the left loop of the 3rd chain here. Start with 2 double crochets here. For the double crochet, yarn over, pull up a loop, then pull through 2 loops twice. Make the 2nd double crochet in the next stitch. Then work 1 single crochet here. Pull through both loops to finish the single crochet. Now, make 3 single crochets in the same stitch, and crochet over the yarn tail as you go. Then work 1 single crochet and 2 double crochets. Chain 1 and cut the yarn. Pull the loop tight, trim the extra yarn, and the inner ear is done. Switch to the cream yarn and go into the side of the first double crochet here. Chain 1 here, then make the first single crochet in the same stitch. Work 9 single crochets evenly around the edge here. chain 1 and leave a long tail for sewing. Pull the loop closed, trim the extra yarn, and hide the pink yarn tail at the back. And one ear is done. Just make the second one the same way. Now let's start the bow with 9 chains. Make a slip knot first, then chain 9. Once the chains are ready, work back across with 8 single crochets. Work 8 single crochets across, going into one side of each chain. For the second row, chain 1 and turn your work. The turning chain doesn't count, and we'll work into the inner loops here. Work 8 single crochets into the inner loops to finish the second row. Start with the turning chain, then turn your work. This row is worked the same way as the second row. Work into the inner loops with 8 single crochets. And that finishes the third row. For row 4, chain 1 and turn your work. Work into the inner loops here, and the next few rows all follow the same rhythm. And row 4 is done. Row 5 follows the same steps here. And row 5 is finished. For row 6, just keep going the same way. And row 6 is done. Chain 1 and cut the yarn. Then go ahead and hide both yarn tails neatly. Follow the ridges in the fabric and shape the bow in the center. Take a piece of yarn and wrap it around the middle a few times. Then secure it with a knot. Trim the extra yarn. Or leave a longer tail here so you can tie it around the neck later. Then gently shape the bow. And now the bow is finished. Next we'll make the tail with a magic ring and 5 single crochets. Wrap the yarn around your finger once here. Insert your hook into the loop, pull up a loop, and chain 1. This chain doesn't count as a stitch. Now make 5 single crochets into the ring. Yarn under, pull up a loop, then pull through both loops to finish the stitch. This is a yarn under single crochet. Place the stitch marker into the first stitch. Once you have 5 single crochets, pull the ring closed. Remove the stitch marker and slip stitch into the first stitch. And that finishes round 1. Rounds 1 through 9 all stay at 5 single crochets. For round 2, chain 1 first. Place the stitch marker into the first stitch. Work 5 single crochets and crochet over the yarn tail as you go. Remove the stitch marker and slip stitch into the first stitch. Then trim the extra yarn tail here. Turn the right side of the fabric outward so the right side is facing out. And that finishes round 2. The next few rounds are all worked the same way, so you can just relax and crochet along at your own pace. Slip stitch into the first stitch. Leave a long tail here for sewing. And now the tail is finished. Find a spot you like for the ears, then sew them into place. Next, find the center of the face, and we'll start adding the details. Thread the needle with a single strand of brown yarn. Find the center point here and adjust the placement however you like. Now thread the needle with a single strand of pink yarn. Go into any nearby stitch here. Leave a little yarn tail and don't pull it all the way through. Let's start with the nose. First stitch a small triangle shape. Then fill in the center of the triangle. Once the nose is filled in, bring the yarn back through and tie a knot. Trim the extra yarn and tuck it inside the body. Switch back to the brown yarn for the rest of the face details. I'm using brown yarn here and going into a stitch along the side of the face. Leave a little yarn tail again. Adjust the face a little here, then secure it with some glue. Just secure it however you like. Next, we'll sew on the little stopper piece. Weave the yarn through a few times, then trim it. Tuck the yarn tail inside the body. Then glue on the eyes. Bend both ends of the shaping wire a little, then insert it into the tail. Find a good spot on the back and sew the tail into place. Just sew it on evenly here. Once the tail is attached, tie the bow around the neck. Just tie a knot at the back. Trim the extra yarn and shape everything a little. The tail can bend freely here. Then add a little blush to the face. And that's it for today. Our little bow kitten is all finished, and I really hope you had fun crocheting along with me. If you make your own, I'd absolutely love to see it. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.